beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht and special guest joining us in studio. He is an NFL agent. We've talked about him before, and Paul did an extensive interview with him not too long ago as well. But Deen Agustin. Dean, thank you so much for joining us and for being our first official guest in our new studio. Woo!
Appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to chat with you guys, or with you. But before we get into that, I did want to, at least give our guy here, Paul, a little bit of the floor before we get into our extensive chat. I hope you don't mind, but I had to do a good service for the beautiful people and for Paul and just give him a couple of minutes to just, how are you doing, my friend? And how was your day yesterday and your Memorial Day?
I am about as good as humanly possible. I'm doing very well. My family is out here visiting my daughter, so it has been especially nice to watch the Knicks be extra good. This is a historic from, all standards of basketball in terms of dominance. I've never watched them sweep a playoff series in my life entering this post in a row to get to the finals. It is absurd. One more thing on my family. My dad was born in 1973, which is the last time the New York Knicks won a championship. He was not alive quite yet. He was still about a month cooking in the oven. I was born in 1999. Obviously, in October, I have been well on record about that.
I go like that. There we go. Okay,
How
we're
about
back.
now?
We're back on track there. So, unfortunately for our YouTube viewers, they were not able to hear Paul say all of that. That's okay.
Better. It's probably better for that. It's just a beautiful life.
It's a beautiful
let's say
life
it like
for
that,
Paul.
Ku'ule.
Well, Dean, I hope you have been having a beautiful life here in Hawaii so far. So just to share a little bit, you work for the Standard. You're an NFL agent. Like I said, Paul had a chance to catch up with you before, but we're almost going to treat like this good first portion of the show to reintroduce everybody to who you are and what you do. So if you can just share a little bit about your background. Let's go way back. Like, let's just tell everybody, where you're originally from and all of that fun stuff.
For sure, yeah. So I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised out there. Live in San Francisco now. I've been there for like the last 5 years or so. Originally from Gilroy, California. Shout out the garlic capital of the world. I was there, raised there, was born in San Jose, and then moved there. It's been a great time. Went to undergrad at San Francisco State. And then right after that, shortly got a master's at University of San Francisco in sport management, and then started working at the Standard in 2023. A big thing about me, like why I even got into the representation game and all of that stuff is, when I was 16, I made a 7-year plan on this is what I wanted to do in my life. This is how I was going to get there. And, you know, being an agent is just something that I gravitated towards a lot. Always been a really big, like, people person. Like, I get that from my dad for sure. You just, you know, randomly strike up conversations with people in the line, wherever we are, whatever it may be. And so, you know, when I was younger, I played a lot of Madden and, like, was really into the franchise mode of things and the contracts in there. And so I was like, oh, you know, I wonder, like, what the exact, like, sports business ecosystem, like, looks like in the world of football. Obviously, you know, it's a $1 billion industry. And so started to do a lot of research on that. Obviously, was always really big fans of all the Polynesian guys in the league, the Palomalus, the Mariotas of the world, and all of them, right? And so I was like, oh, you know, this could be like an interesting kind of niche there. So I did a little bit of research into it. I'm like, oh, you know, I wonder if there is any, you know, Polynesian agents out there, Native Hawaiian agents out there. And, you know, frankly, there just wasn't anybody. And so I was like, oh, you know, this is going to be my end goal then. I want to be the first one to go do it and be able to, you know, help our people out, be able to represent them on the highest level in a, you know, professional way and do things the right way more than anything. And so, you know, in 2023, passed the NFL agent exam and then had my first client drafted in 2024, was the youngest agent in NFLPA at that time to have a client drafted, and then also the first Native Hawaiian one to have a client drafted as well. So it's been a good time. And then this about a month ago, had another client drafted with Dallin Bentley going to the Denver Broncos. And so that makes 2 and 3 years, which has been a good start so far. And now we've got, we're up to 8 guys in the NFL as a company. So a lot of momentum rolling right now, which is some good stuff.
Yeah, I love that. And going back a bit, were you a football player before? Did you play?
So I played for 2 years. That was about it, though. Wrestling was my main sport. So I wrestled for like 9 or 10 years or so. And honestly, I would say like that really kind of shaped who I was like as a person, and also like just like really taught me a lot about life and everything like that. Like wrestling is a sport where, you know, it's not a team sport. Like if you mess up out there, like it's on you. You have nobody else who you can blame. Like, and so you know, really learned a lot of lessons from that and everything, and definitely helped me, you know, become the person I am, become, I guess, the negotiator I am, and all of that stuff as well too, right? And you know, someone who looks like me, there's definitely not a lot of me in a lot of the rooms that I'm in, and so definitely have a chip on my shoulder when it comes to stuff like that, and you know, having a wrestling background definitely kind of adds to that stuff for sure.
All right, but from the Bay Area, though, does that mean you're a 49ers fan? I mean, I know you're a fan of pretty much any team that signs your guys.
Got my guys,
but growing up, were you a 49ers fan?
I was actually a Patriots fan.
Tankers again.
It's all of my favorite people.
Every time,
all of my favorite people.
It must be like an in-studio thing,
like
because a lot of times when we have in-studio guests, like not just you, but I think there was like daggers to the heart when we had Micah Alejado in studio, and Micah was like, "Oh, I like Tom Brady, so I'm a huge Patriots fan," and it was just we all looked at Paul like
it never fails where it's like anybody that I like. It's just like, hey, I like the Patriots. And the thing is, I can't be upset about that. I get it. I was just born into a Jets fandom. That's all. That's it.
Yeah, people like winning teams.
Right, exactly. It's why people are Knicks fans. Sorry, I had to get it.
We got like a couple hours. We're gonna see a lot. We're gonna hear a lot of
guys,
that.
The Knicks don't play for almost 2 more weeks. You're in for a ride. Dean just has to live for it for a single day.
I don't mind. It's gonna be a fun one. I'm glad that we have like where's back-to-back years we got someone in the finals that we get to cheer for with our HSRN team here. But
it's wild. Anyway.
But share a little bit about the schooling process that you went through to kind of go through this, because like I love that there is Native Hawaiian representation now. I think maybe if I was born like 10 years later, this is definitely something I would have been like you, because I'm fascinated with the contract stuff. At one point in my life, I wanted to be an attorney, but then I just never fell in love with any of the specializations for litigation. But if I kind of knew that, wow, wait, an NFL agent would be pretty, or just a sports agent in general, like that would be pretty cool. And I would totally want to do that. Now it's again, a little too late for me. Well, never say never, but I found my love that I have because it has to deal with sports. But yeah, if you could just share a little bit about what that process is like and the schooling you have to go through in case there are other young people, or even young at heart people that maybe do want to think about what it is, because I think we talk about it a lot, and we're going to get into more detail about this conversation because I think you're perfect to talk about it, how there's a lot of agents out there now with NIL, but share more about why it's so important to have a certified agent, the process that NFL agents have to go through, and why you guys are so qualified and why it's important for other people to kind of recognize that, and you can't just go around calling yourself an agent and all of a sudden you get to that level. So if you can just share more of the detail that goes into getting your education and learning about this specifically to make you qualified to do this for all of these, especially the young athletes and their families that are looking out for their interests as well, and making sure they don't run into a situation where they get taken advantage of.
So I'll start at the beginning of that, the education stuff. And so, like I said, when I was 16, kind of made a 7-year roadmap on what exactly I needed to do. And so one of the big things was that to take the agent exam, you have to have either a master's degree, a law degree, or 7 years of negotiation experience. And then the NFLPA has to kind of like vet that to make sure it's actually kind of legit. And so for me, like, went to SF State, so I was like at least kind of close to home, but I had my own kind of space and whatnot, and always loved San Francisco and everything. And so when I was there, actually as a freshman at San Francisco State, University of San Francisco, their sport management program actually was on campus to do like a grad fair thing. And had done a lot of research into them, and I knew that there was like a lot of other agents who had kind of came through their program and everything. So they were always on my radar for that stuff. And they're a top 10 program as a sport management grad program and all of that stuff. And so as a freshman, went to kind of the table, was talking to the director. And he was like, "Oh, are you a senior? Like, we going to be expecting your application or whatever," stuff like that, right? And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm a freshman, dude. I'm 18. I just got here like last semester." And so he was telling me, he's like, "Oh, we'd love to have you come sit in on a couple classes." And so was able to do that. Shout out Brent over there at University of San Francisco. Allowed me to go do that and really kind of shape my view on things, and also just learn from people who are already in the program, and all that stuff was really cool at a young age. And really grateful for that for sure. And then, when it did come time to apply for school, I sent in my application, and then a week later I get a call from like an unknown number, and I pick it up, and he's like, "Hey, just want to let you know that like you're the first kid we're admitting into the program." And it was cool. And I wouldn't say it was like super shocked more than anything, because it was just like, "Oh, I submitted my application last week." And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, you think we're going to tell you no? You've been coming to classes since you were a freshman." So, so that was, a really cool experience. And then my time at the program, definitely learned a lot. Got the chance to, intern at a different agency as well, too, and, learn there for about a year and a half. And then learned a lot there for sure, smaller agency as well, similar to what we are. So, got to do a lot of hands-on stuff. Wasn't like a coffee runner or anything like that. And so definitely it was a good experience for sure. I think that's honestly one of the more important things for people looking to become an agent is, try to get your foot in the door as an intern or whatever it is. I think the biggest advice I like to give people who I do like informational interviews with and whatnot is like, if your school has an NIL department or collective or whatever, if you can try to work in there and learn the other side of the table, I think that's a big thing. And you also make a lot of connections in that way too. Like these are people who, down the line, if you do decide to take the agent route, these are people who you're going to be negotiating with. And so, it's always good to have, friends on the other side of the table who aren't going to be, super aggressive or anything like that with you or whatever it may be. It's always good to have, a helping hand or a familiar face or whatever it may be. And then kind of going into the next part of your question, we as an agency, we have 3 NFLPA licensed agents. I think, the NIL game is so crazy just because there's really no binding laws or anything around it still, and it's been around now since 2021, so this is the 5th year of things, and still hasn't really changed much when it comes to the regulations of things, at least, right? And so I think the importance of going with an agency that does have NFL licensed people is that this is someone, for the parents out there, like you're trusting this person with your son's or daughter's career, right? It's important to have someone who can take them all the way into the NFL. And so, like, if it's not like this person is just with you for, 3 years, and then as soon as they've kind of done their due diligence, they're kind of wiping their hands, and it's like, okay, now you got to go find a whole nother agent in a month right before the draft, and the draft prep starts and everything, right? And so for us, it's a big thing. We're able to kind of build relationships with our guys over, multiple years. And so it's been definitely, a really big thing for us. And I think we're just very much a relationship-driven company more than anything, too. And I think like for me, especially like I got into this business because I had a purpose behind it. It wasn't like this is a get rich quick scheme or whatever it may be, right? Like I got into it because I wanted to, help our people have a trusted person on the other side of the table, someone who, you know, grew up like them, comes from a background like them, eats the same food, listens to the same music, all of that stuff. And so, you know, it was a really big thing for me to kind of go out and do that. And then, you know, make sure we're doing it the right way, by having, you know, the proper licenses and all of that stuff as well too, because, you know, when you get to the NFL, teams don't even negotiate with somebody. They can't. It's actually, they can get fined or whatever it may be, for negotiating with somebody who doesn't have that license. And so, you know, it's a really big thing for us.
I love what you said there, because that's something I didn't really, I mean, it's quite obvious, but I don't think we've ever really talked about that and the importance of that now with the NIL landscape of that transition process for the family and the player. Again, we were joined by Deen Agustin, NFL agent, NFLPA certified agent, of course, and athlete marketing and partnership manager for the Standard. But yeah, like that's a good point that you bring up there, where if you're with representation, we'll just call it that, in college to negotiate your NIL deals or whatnot. Yeah, the NFL, like you just said, they won't even risk anything by negotiating with anybody. Like, but how does that work? Like, say if it was a parent, for example, we all know like Lamar Jackson is very popular for negotiating with like by himself or with the help of his mom too. Yeah. And now with maybe parents being like how does that part work when you're not necessarily working with and outside of the family, but within the family, and you're an NFL team and all of that stuff, because that's kind of what it is now with college. A lot of the parents are kind of representing their own kids. But now that we're in this kind of weird purgatory area, how does that work now?
That's good word. I think in the NFL, it's a lot of tiptoeing for sure when it comes to that stuff. It's like the family will usually hire kind of an outside attorney just to kind of look over the contract. And I'm sure it's like, oh, you know, we're going to have the attorney, we'll get the contract, have the attorney look over it. And then it's like Lamar essentially in that scenario, right, would have to be the one to go to the team, because the players, they technically can negotiate the contract themselves. It's just, you know, someone who's not NFLPA certified, they can't do that. And so it's like Lamar would likely have to go to the team himself then after talking with the lawyer, and kind of, I assume, would have a sheet of things like, hey, these are my kind of list of demands or whatever it may be. They kind of go from there. I would say like in the college realm of things, it's, you know, you got to be objective, right? And, you know, for a parent, like it's going to be really hard to be objective if it's your son or daughter, right? And so I think, you know, the Texas Tech general manager, James Blanchard, did an interview about talking about that, about how he has, you know, in his time dealt with a lot of parents who are, you know, their son's agent or whatever it is. And so that's one big thing that he kind of asked them is like, hey, am I talking to the agent or am I talking to mom right now? And so, you know, that's a big thing of you got to make sure you're just, you know, going to be able to be objective, or have someone in place for you that is going to be objective and who really understands the market of those things. Because, like, you know, every parent's going to think, you know, oh, my son is the greatest. He deserves to get paid this amount because he's the best. But it's like, okay, well, let's look at it objectively. There's this other kid on the table who might be 2 inches taller than him and 15 pounds heavier and plays at a better school. And now he's played against better competition. And so it's like, who exactly, like, objectively, that kid probably is better. And so, you know, it's going to be hard sometimes for parents who are acting as their child's representation to kind of do things from that objective lens. And and so, you know, that's where we're able to come in and be able to kind of, you know, lay it out fully objectively for that things. And also, you know, we know the market. We've had guys kind of in every single position across the board essentially, and have negotiated with pretty much every single Power 4 team in the conference. Obviously, we can't have a kid on every single team because, you know, they're going to choose where they want to go. But we've at least, you know, talked to all of these guys and have connections all over the place. And so it's like, we know that, like, hey, this school, this is what the going rate for their starting safety over there is. This is what this school in the, you know, Pac-12 is gonna charge for this. This is what this is going to be in the Big Ten. This is what the SEC looks like. Like, and then there's a whole other kind of realm of things of what the contract language is going to be too. And that's a whole other thing of, like, you know, a lot of times when it is an unlicensed agent out there who's never looked over these things before, they just see that number and they're like, oh, cool, that's the number we're going to get. Like, awesome. And it's like, that is not how it works whatsoever at all. Obviously, you know, with the revenue share of things as well, that's almost like our, you know, new guaranteed money, right? When it comes to, when you compare it to the NFL, the revenue share stuff is stuff like, okay, they are going to get this money. It's already portioned for them and all this stuff. And then a lot of times, you know, it can be supplemented by NIL stuff where, you know, they do have an outside company where it's going to be like, okay, it's a marketing deal. He'll come, maybe it's like a car dealership or whatever, right? And then he's going to get $25,000 or a car or whatever it may be to come do this. And so that's how, different universities will want to structure things differently. A big thing for us is making sure our guys get as much, of that guaranteed money, that rev share money as possible. Because, in the past we've seen at multiple different universities where they have a collective promise this kid this money. Then what happens if that company folds or the collective folds or whatever it may be? Now where are they getting that money from that they've promised to this kid? And so for us, we're like, we don't even want to leave it to chance or anything. We're going to try to get the biggest percentage possible for our guys on the rev share.
It just feels like the appropriate way to go about it in a lot of different ways. I am a little bit curious because we talk about agents and different agencies and all of this. How do you guys kind of go about, or how do you go about identifying talent that you guys would like to work with? I know that when you go directly onto your guys' site, you do have an ability to like reach out to the agency, but how do you guys kind of go about talent identification and understanding which families, which people you kind of want to work with, and maybe which ones you try and stay away from?
Yeah, for us, we get a lot of referrals and whatnot too, which helps out a lot. That kind of like, if we're getting a referral from another family, like usually the family they're going to refer us is also like very similar minded and everything like that, where, they're going to let us do our job and trust us that we're going to do our job and all of that stuff, right? So that's a big thing for us. And then also, we'll have the initial conversation for sure, hear somebody out. And if it's just like, after the first conversation, maybe second conversation, we're like, maybe this isn't a fit, but maybe they're a fit for somebody else. And, is what it is. That's just like in every business, right? That's going to happen. You're never going to be batting 100 when it comes to stuff like that. And so like, that's how we do stuff. And then also for me, like I do a lot of the, prospect watching and all this stuff, the scouting portion of it. And then we have a guy at the company, Noah Chang, actually, he was a Punahou alum, used to work for the East West Shrine Bowl for a number of years. He's kind of our in-house scout as well. And so he does a lot of stuff for us. We ever have a prospect kind of shoot over his tape to him, get his opinion on it. And, with him having that scouting lens and experience, able to get a really, objective point of view on the kids. And for me, also kind of one of the lenses I have is like I mainly focus on the West Coast guys for sure, just because that's kind of where I am, where I've had the most success and all of that. And then also like Polynesian kids for sure. For me, obviously, I'm going to be able to kind of relate to them. Then, no offense, but an old white guy, right?
No offense to you, brother.
Nah, you're not old though, Paul. You're right. We're both 99. We're both 99.
You guys are the young people here.
But so that's a big thing for me is like, I think all of like my clients that I'm the like majority lead on, they're either Polynesian or they're from the Bay Area. And so like for me, it's able to relate to them on that level, for sure. And so that's definitely one of the lenses that we have. Obviously, our CEO, he's based in San Antonio. One of our other agencies based in Kansas City. And so like they're going to recruit those markets a little heavier too. And then if there's kind of overlap there, like if there's a, Polynesian kid in Texas, then we'll kind of be able to tag team it or whatever it may be. Right. And so I think we're definitely different than other agencies in that way, where we're very, very collaborative. Like I think, other, maybe bigger agencies, these guys like are very cautious about stepping on each other's toes or whatever it may be. For us, we're, complete opposite of that. Like, for example, I have a client in Kansas City, Esapole. He's a tackle for them. He's going to be competing to be a starter for them this year. Like I mentioned, one of our guys is based in Kansas City. If I ever needed anything out there, I know that like, if he needs to be checked on or anything like that, he needs anything, I can hit up my guy and he's going to be able to go over there and be able to handle that. And so, it's been very easy for us to kind of like be able to work with each other and all of that and be able to kind of just give each other fully unfiltered advice or whatever it may be, and really be able to truly like work together as a team. And for our clients, it's going to benefit them because now you got, a whole team of people working for you. It's not just this one agent who feels like isolated by himself or anything like that. It's like, no, we're doing what's best for all of our guys all of the time. If there's an opportunity that pops up, it's like, this kid would be perfect for that. I'm gonna go talk with him about it, and then we'll go from there. So
I love that, because you're right. Yeah, the bigger agencies are like, no, my client, don't touch, or other way around. Like, I don't want to help because that's not my client. You deal with it, all of that stuff. Yeah. Now I'm curious, and you obviously like specialize in football, but is the standard open to other sports, and probably more importantly, women's like female athletes? Because we see the explosion of, say, women's volleyball now is getting really big. We've seen women's basketball blow up the last couple of years, and then with some Polynesian players as well. A shout out one of the newer players, Tihani Pau Pau. Hey yo, like, I always try to like highlight all the Alyssa Peely, my OG girl. And then you see softball obviously is getting bigger and bigger, and we all know about Jocelyn Allo. So there are a lot of female athletes there. And is the Standard an agency that maybe it like kind of dabbles in representation for female athletes, maybe more so in the college landscape, because like the professional aside from the WNBA, like all of the other, like softball is still kind of new into their professional league and all of that stuff. But is there kind of any department that deals with some of the female athletes as well?
I would say we haven't dove into it really yet. I know we've looked into like WNBA stuff or whatever it may be a couple different times, and I know like I think Hawai'i Pacific just made a girls flag football team too, right? And so that wouldn't surprise me if in a couple of years it starts to blow up a little more. I know in Southern California there's a pretty growing interest of stuff down there for flag football and everything. So it wouldn't surprise me if that kind of explodes into a new market. Obviously, it's an Olympic sport, and I think that's a big reason why it's getting a big push. And it'll be cool for all of that stuff to happen. But for us, like I mentioned, we've only been around for 3 years, right? Obviously, we've had a lot of success for sure, but we want to be able to kind of keep cutting our teeth and just sharpening our iron more than anything in the world of football, and really becoming like a bigger presence by that and whatnot. And so that's been the main focus. Down the line, definitely would obviously want to explore other avenues or for sure, whatever it may be, especially because there is, like you mentioned, a growing Polynesian presence in, softball and volleyball and all of that stuff as well, too. But
yeah, I totally get it, because I think for HSRN, we always talk about, like, we throw out all ideas, right? Like, even with Michael Escaro, it's like, oh, let's start doing this. And it's like, hold on, wait. We got to
remember that we are still in our infancy just as much.
And our team is only so big. So I totally understand. But it's definitely, something that at least is in the back of your mind.
It's on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
It's just a couple of steps down on the whiteboard.
I think our HSRN whiteboard is like full.
Oh, God, our HSRN. We have multiple whiteboards at HSRN.
So I totally get it, where it's like, we know that's a importance in the landscape, but 100% understand where it's like, well, we still need to continue to focus on this. And I think that's a good testament to what you guys have built there, because you're not trying to, like you said, go for a money grab. It's like, you could dabble in that because that's where a lot of money is going, but you don't want to take away from what your priority is right now. So I think that's important to recognize for the Standard, that like, it's not so much that you don't want to help women. I want to make sure our listeners and our viewers are clear of that, right? Because it can be misconstrued,
absolutely.
They don't think blah blah blah. But like, I understand and how focus on and being the master at our craft at this point, because like you said, it's still a very young company before you try to expand and get to kind of going in that, because you want to also, when that time comes, you guys want to do it right as well, and not neglect those athletes, right? So I credit you guys for that, where it's like, well, we don't want to jump on like, oh, what's the fad right now? We want to make sure we perfect what we already have.
100%, yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I do want to, because it is AAPI month, we're kind of wrapping it up here. I do want to talk a little bit more about the importance of representation here for as a Polynesian, and we'll talk a little bit about more of your ethnic background and everything like that, and what's kind of the future it holds for a lot of those in AAPI. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back as we are joined by Deen Agustin in studio. He is an NFL agent for the Standard. We'll be right back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
I can't believe it's been as long as it has since we talked.
I know.
So I was looking back on.
It was right after the draft, right, in 2024? Yeah. So pretty much 2 years then.
I was like, that's not that much time. Really fast. Be full dad, marry. Everything in my life has now happened.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, streaming on hawaiisportsradio.com.
And Ku'ule Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and joined in studio by NFL agent for the Standard, Deen Agustin. All right. Well, it is AAPI month, just wrapping up here. So you kind of mentioned it before, how you noticed, like, oh, are there any like native Hawaiian agents out there for the NFL? Nope. Okay, I want to be one of those that kind of dabbles in that. But if you can kind of elaborate a little bit more about that thought process and what it's been like for you to kind of be the forefront of that representation at this level of NFL agents.
For sure, yeah. Thought process was like, I just wanted to make sure that our people were going to be able to be fairly represented and someone who really was there for them and wasn't there to, take a portion of their money and that was it. And essentially don't talk to the guy for the rest of the year. And so for me, that was a big thing. Wanted to get into it for the right reasons and really be able to, represent our people on the big stage. I'm talking with, 32 NFL teams when the draft time comes around and all that stuff, right? And so it is an interesting thing too, for sure. I was actually like writing my thoughts about this the other day of, when I'm there, when I'm on these recruiting trips sometimes and whatnot, a lot of times the people there, they assume I'm an uncle or a cousin or whatever it is. Like, oh, the brother. And then one time I even got like
real.
One time they were like, oh, are you the dad? And I'm like, I'm 26. I'm like, bro, like he's an 18-year-old kid.
Well, maybe
like,
you're mature looking for it.
I'm like, okay. I was like, what are we doing here? And so I'm like, that's where I think, maybe people could take an extra second and think about that, right? Of like, maybe this 26-year-old kid isn't a dad to a 17-year-old already, right?
Perhaps.
And so it's very interesting to me that the thought process of some people, they'll jump all the way to that before even considering like, oh, maybe this is the agent. Right. And it's like I'm in there in a branded polo with my company logo, my company hat on.
Yeah, uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, that part of it is very interesting for sure. And so that's where I think, representation definitely matters when it comes to that stuff. Right. And just because I think, I can't even really, blame them fully because, there hasn't really been. At least do it in the fully professional manner. Right. And so, yeah, I think it's important for that stuff 100%. I think it's got to change just because, these guys are going to relate to somebody who comes from a background like them a little more, and they're just going to be able to kind of, understand the challenges that these guys go in their life, understand the family dynamic better and all of that stuff, right? And so that's been a big thing for me too, is wanting to take another, young Polynesian kid under my wing and be able to mentor them and all of that, because in this industry, there really isn't a lot of people who are open to being mentors just because it's so cutthroat. And even more so, like, there's not going to be, there was no one older than me who was going to be like an OG to me or anything, right, in the game or anything like that. And so versus like, it's also a heavy nepotism industry. Like, I'm just going to be really honest. Like, there's a lot of times at the companies where it's like, oh, how did that kid get that job? It's like, yeah, his uncle owns the company. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense then, right? And so for me, I went into this industry with no connections, essentially. I went into it a completely blank slate and just started doing informational interviews with people all across the industry, and then did one with the CEO of the company that I work with now. And then from there, they literally flew me out to dinner, met with the whole team, and by the next day was at their company all hands meeting and was taking company headshots. So like it just was, I'm so grateful that, they took that chance on me for sure. And, I want to be able to, pay it forward and do that for another, young Polynesian kid out there. And I think a lot of times because there hasn't been much representation, they don't even realize that that's a path to be taken. I think that kind of dives into a deeper thing of like, Polynesians were the least educated group in the entire United States, right? And so I think when I got a master's degree, I was like 0.0001% of Polynesians with a master's degree. And so I think like things can kind of start at the top that needs to be changed of like, hey, like going to get a degree, getting an education definitely matters. And, with the platform of football, there's so much things you can do with that. And, these guys would have such a different lens playing at a D1 level, or even guys who have played in the NFL. And then, the average career is 2.5 to 3 years. So it's like after that, it's like now you have that experience and it can translate directly into coming on the representation side and learning that whole realm of things and be able to, pay it forward to the young people coming up. And because Polynesians got the highest rate to make it to the NFL per capita, right? It's higher than any other ethnic group. It's 42 times higher than any other ethnic group. And so, I think there definitely needs to be more representation because even just in this last year's NFL draft, there's 5 Polynesians taken in the first round.
Yeah.
Like, that's a massive number, right? And so definitely, representation matters a ton for that. Want to be able to pay it forward and do all that stuff and be able to help, a young kid coming up who might have not have even thought of that as a career path before. And then, hopefully they're listening to this or find out about it one way or another, right? And they can kind of look into it a little more and, hopefully ask me questions and I can kind of, take things from there.
Yeah, I feel like the past 2 drafts, I want to say they broke records for each other about the amount of first round draft picks.
2024, I think, was the most ever taking in a draft, I'm pretty sure. And then this year, I think, was the most first rounders.
First round, that's what I was like, whoa, record. Shout out to Polynesian Football Hall of Fame and their tweets that kind of throw that out there. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's good what you said there to pass it on. And yeah, I'm glad you talked about that or mentioned it about how the least educated as well. And it sucks to say that, but it is unfortunately the truth, right? But people like yourself, I'm glad that are around to kind of mention that, but also be someone that is open to being any type of mentor. I mean, if there was a young athlete out there, maybe if even have NFL talent, but maybe they are interested in kind of getting into maybe the agent side or just maybe how to navigate school and everything that goes on. What is the best way for some of these young people to potentially get in touch with you? Yeah,
I think Instagram, just, my name with an underscore in the middle of it, Deen _Agustin. That's pretty much the easiest way, honestly, that or LinkedIn, but I would say Instagram's honestly just the easiest way for sure.
Oh, LinkedIn.
That's my kind of guy right there.
Hey, shout out Fernando Mendoza. Yeah. He's the LinkedIn guy, number 1 draft pick. There you go. That updates his profile and everything like that. All right, I want to get back into some of the football stuff because we have been talking about how there is a big difference between being and a vetting process to be an NFL certified agent with the NFLPA. And for all its faults, the NFLPA does its job when it really needs to. So something that we've talked about on this show, but I want to get your perspective on it, especially too, because you talk to a lot of the college athletes and there was more stuff coming out on Twitter this morning too, about the expanded college football playoff. But essentially these young people would have to play 17, 18 games, which is as much or more than what they currently play in the NFL. And when the NFL talks about expanding, right, they can't just say, hey, let's make an extra game. Yeah. There's a process. I know Joe Burrow has come out and said if it's 18, they need 2 bye weeks. So there's 100%. Kind of that back and forth because you still want to protect the health and safety, of course, of everybody. So what has been kind of the background discussions amongst and how they feel about the expanded college football playoff? Because Paul and I always say, it's like, man, there's all of these adults in the room that are controlling the future and say that they care about the health and safety, but now they go on with this assumption that, oh, well, we're paying you guys now, so we're going to do whatever we want to recoup that money, and that's how it goes. But there is no, and now don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily for a union or anything like that in college athletics, yada, yada, yada. But what have you heard in terms of what the players want and how they feel about an expanded college football playoff? Because you work with some of the people that could potentially play all of those extra games, right? So it's not like the smaller schools that are like, oh, we'll still only have 12, 13 games. Like, we're chilling. But like, you kind of know play more games, and their parents who can't be too excited about maybe preserving their health for the future of the NFL.
Exactly.
So what's kind of maybe your personal opinion on it as well, and maybe what you have been hearing from the players?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like, if they are going to play all those games, one, they got to be compensated more, right? So that's like per game bonus essentially is what, like in the NFL, you get a playoff bonus every single you get a bonus on that too, right? And so that there needs to be kind of structure around that stuff for sure. And, you know, we have stuff in that, like, that we negotiate in the contracts where it's, you know, incentives. This is if they make the conference championship or whatever it may be, right? And so we're already kind of doing stuff like that to protect the guys, making sure that they're going to be, you know, protecting that way. I think in college football, the at least only positive about having more games there is that they do have multiple bye weeks. Like, I think in this last college football playoff, right, there was like a 3-week stretch where teams essentially weren't playing. And then it eventually, you know, messed up a lot of the teams who did have first round byes because they haven't played in 3-4 weeks. And now you got to go play against this team who just won last week and they're feeling good about themselves and all of that stuff, right? And so that's a tough aspect of it for sure. And then, like you mentioned, though, a big thing is making sure these guys are healthy all the way to the NFL. And so if that does expand like that and this kid has a first-round grade, like, we might start seeing guys kind of just pull out of playoff games, honestly, because it's like, is this going to be worth jeopardizing, you know, the opportunity for me to still go first round? Because these guys are a business. Like, their body is a business, right? And so they got to be able to protect themselves. They're not going to go out there, you know, in a first-round game, or even if it's like a, you know, conference semis or whatever it is, right? And then first play of the game, someone rolls up on their ankle or their knee, and now, you know, they're out for a whole year, and that's going to drop them from making, you know, $50 million signing bonus in the first round, and now you're a second or third rounder, or you drop even further in that, like some other guys that's happened before, right? And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I do think, honestly, the way that these guys are going to be able to protect themselves is they probably are going to have to unionize, and it's going to start a whole kind of transformation of college football. It wouldn't surprise me if the NCAA as an entity for football itself isn't really even around anymore. Honestly, in a couple of years, it might just turn into something like what they tried to do with like the European Super League for soccer, right? Where all the top teams are like, okay, what do we need the NCAA for anymore? Like, they're just kind of there, right? And so they just kind of create their own thing. And so, you know, it'll be interesting to see what fully happens with that stuff. Our guys have been just like, oh, you know, well, it's another game that we have to play, I guess. So, you know, I guess we're going to do it.
Like
These
that's
guys
just kind of a football player.
Yeah.
Oh, another game.
Yeah. And so that's been kind of their take on it. For us, we're like, you know, doing everything possible to make sure that, you know, okay, if they are going to have to play, okay, they're going to get compensated for it, and compensated a little extra, even, to make sure that, you know, if they do decide to play in the game, that they're going to be like, okay, well, you know, if I do play, this is almost kind of like a little bit of insurance, essentially.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, and hence the importance of having professional representation at the college level now, especially in football, because I had mentioned it last week when all of this discussion of the expanded playoff came up again. It's like, what about your guys in the trenches, right? Like, they don't necessarily have the big deals like some of the other skilled positions, but kind of need those guys to protect your assets when you're in college football, because when you have the quarterback who will clearly have representation and negotiate similar deals to what you're saying, where if you're playing extremes, but because there's no union, the guys that are all of these other players, like the starters in the trenches, whether, you know, it's like whoever your guard maybe that goes unrecognized in the grand scheme of things, but kind of important, and they have a very short career potentially with their bodies. So I'm just like, that's the part that I can't.
Stuff of it too.
I
right?
know.
Where it's like, how is that going to affect that then? Now they've already been like, okay, 2 week portal now. That's all we're doing. And then now if they do this, it's like, okay, well, you're going to run the portal now back at the same time as the playoffs running again, or what are we doing here? And so,
what are we doing?
Yeah,
here
it's
is the question.
been interesting for sure. I know they're talking about the 24 team playoff. I'm like, not everything has to be March Madness. Like even expanding it to 12, I think is fine. But yeah, once you go to 24, it's like it's pretty much a lot of the SEC teams, right? Who are like, oh, we're 9-3, but we should have been in over, a Tulane or whatever it is. It was like, okay, maybe you should have just won more of your games. Like that is what it is, right?
Well, and then I saw like a tweet, and it's a fair take where, of course, the power conference schools like SEC, Big Ten, the coaches will be in favor for it because basically if you make the playoff, you keep your job.
Yeah, looks
so
good.
they're like, oh, I made the playoffs. Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's fine. Everything's I'm like, that's such a good point. Like, of course, all the coaches will be like, easier for me to make the playoff? Yes.
Yeah. No, that stuff's interesting too, right? Because a lot of times, people on social media harp on a lot of the players for hitting the portal, right? But when the coaches leave at the drop of a hat, right? It's pretty much like they're still getting a payout from whoever it may be or whatever it is, right? And so no one really, I mean, they get flack for it, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, it's like the coach's decision is affecting, the 105 players on the team. If one guy leaves, that's just him leaving.
Yeah, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, that's, is what it is. But when a coach leaves, then it's a whole other thing. And there's been multiple times where, like, Lane Kiffin this last year, right? Like, just left in the middle of the playoffs. So it's interesting stuff for sure.
Which weird. I'm probably start to see different contracts be negotiated with coaches because now schools do have to pay their players. So
that is
if you're
put in our contracts, that we're vouching for, of like, hey, if a coaching change happens, his spot is still guaranteed on the team and all of that, right? And so definitely making sure our guys are protected and whatnot, because there's a lot of coaches out there who are known to hop around or whatever it may be too. So always got to make sure the guys are protected in that way.
And we are joined in studio by Deen Agustin, a NFLPA certified agent for the Standard. I wanted to give a shout out to one of our regular YouTube viewers, Joey, because he was saying, "Go Knicks! Woohoo! Bring on the OKC or the Spurs." I prefer the Spurs, he says.
Amen. I won't go any further on it because I could go all day on it, but amen. Thank you.
We can insert some basketball conversation just a little bit.
We'll get there.
I was like, Dean, are you a NBA
I'm
guy?
a huge Warriors fan.
See, that's fine.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
I kind of made the comparison. Now I know they're completely different players, right? So don't yell at me, everybody. Is that because Wemby in game one, and even his last game at the half, like he just threw up the shot, and I'm like, this feels like Golden State Warriors type of action where you're just like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Like, this is just
legitimate must-see TV.
Yeah.
I mean, as a Warriors fan in the 2010s era when everything was going on, right? It's like, oh, we're down 20. Yeah, they're gonna figure it out. Steph was doing that stuff for forever now, and I think the 2022 one was definitely my favorite. That was just kind of, I think everyone kind of wrote him off, and then just.
Right back though.
But yeah, no, I definitely do see a lot of similarities with the Spurs and with everyone kind of throws around the term gravity, but I think it's a real thing. Like with Steph, I think his gravity on offense, where he's pulling three people to him, leaving. Somehow Kevin Durant is getting left alone because they got to go send three guys at Steph, right? And so with Wemby, I think you see similar stuff almost on like the defensive version of him, where it's like, no one's even coming close to him in the paint. If he's there, like, there's very few guys who are going to go there and challenge him, and it's really like, it probably wasn't a good decision if you're doing that. And so, it's definitely interesting. I love basketball for sure.
I know Paul and I have talked about this before, where it's like, in all the glory that the Knicks are now officially in the NBA Finals, so we can really talk about it. It's like, congratulations, you might have to be the start of the Spurs dynasty that we might see, but we will see. He's just chilling. He's okay.
We've been there before. That was 1999 too. So it's
like deja vu for sure.
Whatever, it happens. It happens. I'm just glad to get there, and then we can have the conversation in another week about what the results might end up being.
Sadly, I mean, I am a Golden State Warriors. Well, more of a Steph Curry fan for sure, and I appreciate everything that they have done for basketball. Essentially, I mean, my grandma became an NBA fan because of Steph Curry. Like, she's like all about Steph.
Has made my favorite.
She loves it.
Fan sign.
Oh
for anyone at any time. The Steph Curry sign that she made when the Warriors came here. is just
Yeah.
night and day better than everything. She put a
loves
ton of
Steph.
effort into it.
She did.
That's
And
awesome.
she has like that artistic background and she loves Steph Curry. And once again, I can appreciate all that he did for basketball. I mean, even though I'm a Orlando Magic fan, Steph Curry's
I mean, everything he's done for the community in the Bay Area too. He's got such
Yeah.
a presence there, and I mean, his just impact on everything, right? Like it's incredible. Like my girlfriend is an event manager at a restaurant, right? And they were doing this big event, and they had like a whole Zoom set up, and Steph was actually was on the Zoom, but then everyone around heard Steph's voice, and they started running towards the thing because they thought he was there. But then the staff had to kind of tell them like, "Oh no, like
Just
Steph
kidding.
Curry's not here. Like he's just on the Zoom. Like you can watch it if you want, but it's funny,
funny.
The way that he moves around out there is like, I mean, he's like Bay Area Jesus, right? Like it's like everyone loves him. He's probably, I think he's the best Bay Area athlete ever. I think his impact. I think he's a top 5 NBA player ever.
Woo!
Yeah, he's incredible for sure. I mean, completely transformed the game, right? So. It's ridiculous. Now we got 7'5" guys taking 40-foot threes. So
I did a little cheer there because Michael and I had this discussion a couple of weeks ago on like overall top 5 players, and I always put Steph in there because of that. Like he changed the game. He's like, just this electrifying player. Clearly, you got to put in LeBron and Kobe, MJ and Steph. Well, everything else is debatable, but. In there for sure because and for good or bad though, because then you had everyone thinking that they could shoot like Steph Curry and you're like can just drive to the basket, drive to the basket. And then you got Wemby. That's didn't know Paul Hard the Knicks gonna technically it's not over, but
if it's the Spurs, if you want my honest answer, I would prefer the Spurs more just because I think one team has finals experience and one team doesn't, and it's really as simple as that because both of them are juggernauts to me. Like you look at both teams, they are phenomenal.
OKC's got the whistle too.
That's the thing. It's like OKC, like I am.
Well, that's because SGA is like falls on the ground. There was like a stat about it that he falls the most. Yeah,
it's absurd. Whereas like the Spurs are very, very good, but can hope like okay, maybe if it's not Wemby that's having the young moment, maybe it's Steph Castle, maybe it's Dylan Harper. I doubt it.
And he's had those games, right?
Right.
Steph Castle had like a 9 turnover.
Exactly.
Game
like
day,
they happen.
Yeah.
And, and the Knicks, to whatever their credit is, they're playing the best basketball that I've ever seen them play. So like they'll have a chance against whoever. But the Thunder with the championship, whatever, and they also kind of have the rest on the Spurs because the Spurs have actually had to play a few more games throughout the playoffs, and I understand like whatever. I'm a big believer of the war of attrition and the accumulating the fatigue and whatever. I would prefer the team that's played more games against my team that has played very few games personally, but that might just be me. I am curious about this, Dean, not to turn it back on you, but I did want to ask this because part of being an agent is you get a chance to work with people who are in these professional spheres. Do you find yourself getting starstruck still, or has that kind of...
that's a fun question. I like that.
Has it kind of started to go away from...
I think a lot of times it's like, oh, that's, so-and-so. And then it's like, okay, well, now they're... right?
Yeah.
And so we kind of go from there. And it's been interesting, meeting a general manager or head coach or whatever it may be, right? And it's like, oh, yeah, grew up watching that guy or whatever it is, seen him on the sidelines my whole life. And then it's like, okay, well, they're just another person. So, like, let's talk now, right? And so there's no real time to be starstruck or fanboy or anything like that, right? It's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay. Like...
But have you been in the presence of Steph Curry?
I have not, but he's not in football, so it's a little different, right?
Yeah.
Then I can be a fan because he's not in football.
Because I was like, wow, that's kind of actually the last time.
Yeah. Tom Brady for me in the world of football might be like my one exception where I'm like, this is the greatest player
I was
ever,
gonna
right?
say, to you, that'd be like walking up to God himself. Yeah. Football Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I would say like, Star Trek stuff. It's like, oh, you see him. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it's like, all right.
I was just curious because, like, in a sense, like that's kind of how.
Not everybody's like that though. I see people in the business all the time, and it's like, why are you taking pictures with guys who are not your client? like that's kind of odd. It's interesting. I think it's like I don't want to say poser, but like
I get
it's
it.
kind of like the vibe that I get, right? Like
You got to show your status.
yeah, it's like I don't know, it's interesting. Like why, like especially if it's a current player, right? Like why are you taking why are you taking a picture with a current, player that's not, your, client?
That would
Like,
feel
that's-
really weird.
Yeah, it's
in
just
general.
It's just odd, right?
Yeah, as I think about it. Ooh.
Yeah.
Good question, because we have to go through as media members with
Yeah.
like access and like
That's what kind of made me think of
yeah,
it.
you
is
don't-
You just part of it is by being around all the time is like you get a chance to be around these people. So
Yeah.
like you have to be like calm, cool, collected. And part of it is just like I don't know. I see these people as regular people.
Yeah.
Like it's not anymore. It's not just like, oh, this is somebody who is on my TV. This is not somebody whose quotes I see on the screen of my phone. This is somebody I'm like legitimately have
Yeah.
conversations with or could have conversations with theoretically.
yeah. I think the last time I was starstruck was when the Golden State Warriors were here, and I'm like, Steph Curry's right there. I just took a photo of him. Many photos with my camera. Like, this is so cool because the Clippers were coming out here, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, whatever. You know, fortunately, we've been doing this for so long, and I go to a lot of professional games where you kind of are like, okay, this is cool. Like, you've gotten used to being subdued, I guess you can say, and not as starstruck, but definitely Steph Curry when he was here. And it was like, he's right there. Him, and then probably Mike Tyson back in the day was
That's
like,
fair.
yeah, Mike
Those feel
Tyson
like
was.
two pretty.
Yeah, but Mike Tyson was funny because it was like when he was here for his comedy show, and then he had like a media. Yeah, I know.
Didn't even realize that's the thing.
For a little while,
Well, that was the thing.
Mike
That
Tyson
not
was
what I was
doing.
expecting her to say. She saw Mike Tyson.
He was doing like his comedy show for a little bit, and then he did one here, and so they had like a media scrum, and then it was pretty cool because at the end of the scrum, he was the one that offered, and of course, if they offer, then you're
Well,
allowed
yes,
to.
that is a
He
whole
was the
nother
one that was like, anyone want a photo? And like all of our media are looking at
hell
each
yeah.
other like, yes. It's like, wow, this is so cool that like this can actually happen. I like that question from you, Paul.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady, is there a second choice of like if you
Who would starstruck strike you?
aside from Tom Brady?
I mean Steph Curry for sure, right?
Yeah.
I think like I don't know if I'd be starstruck because I feel like he'd be just such a chill dude. It's probably Max Holloway. Like I feel like everything I've heard about him is that he's like super chill, wonderful guy. Like we'll talk with the fans and whatnot. And I like he's a great dude. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of him too, right? So that'd probably be another one. Manny Pacquiao maybe too, I guess.
Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
I love those answers.
Yeah,
Those are great answers.
yeah. Max definitely for sure.
Yeah.
Like, was got a chance to like interview him a couple of times or be in media scrums, and he is definitely the most chill
Local boy,
guy.
right? Like he's gonna be chill.
Yeah, like the only time, which is no fault to him, is the only time his personality changes is when he's in fight camp week, and mostly the last
You
2
know what?
weeks
Yeah.
when you start really having to get down
Probably
to
a good
it.
thing.
Yeah.
You probably should change
Yeah.
at that point.
I mean, especially got to cut weight and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I wrestled, right? So like in high school, I wrestled at 120s, and so I was like walking around at like 128, right? And so it's like having to cut 6 to 8 pounds at that weight is like I don't even know like what weight I was cutting at that point. Right?
Right.
I'm spitting in a cup, I'm chewing Skittles, and like spitting in a cup to try to lose ounces.
As many.
Yeah, at that point, right? And so I definitely sympathize with all the guys who have to do that for their career now and everything, right? It's intense for sure.
All right, before we take our top of the hour break, I did want to, since we're on that topic, we might as well ask you about it. How do you think it's going to go July 11th between Max and
knocking
the
him
return of Conor McGregor? Yes.
Yeah, he's knocking him out.
Say it to the camera.
I can't believe that McGregor's even booked again, honestly. They've been talking about him coming back, I think, for like 4 years now. And now he's finally back. It's going to be interesting. Max is going to be motivated because, he's lost to McGregor before, and he's going to want that back, just like against Poirier, right? And so it's going to be interesting. I mean, we'll see what happens. No one knows how McGregor actually looks because he's been fought in so long. And so it'll be interesting. I think, Max probably TKOs him in like the second or third. Yeah.
All in on that.
I know. I was just like, man, if anything, it's guaranteed that Max will show up. I am trying to not get my hopes up too high because
that's another thing, right?
I'm like,
Max
is
might
Connor
end up fighting
actually gonna?
somebody
Yeah,
else.
I'm like, is Connor actually going to be there? Like, my excitement will only happen once I see Connor walking out of the tunnel. I'll be like, oh, it's happening! It's happening. Up until then, even if Conor McGregor makes it to like the official press conference and the weigh-in and makes weight, I'm still gonna be like, nope,
them in the actual
nope.
ring.
It's still there's something that's gonna happen, and he's not going to be in the fight. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back. I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what it was like to be, someone on the continent, but clearly, I'm sure watching Hawaii football, and what you thought about this past season as well. So we'll talk some Hawaii football as we are joined by NFL agent for the Standard, Deen Agustin, and of course, Paul and myself, Ku'ulei. So we'll be right back for hour 2. It's Radio Network.
You're listening to the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, streaming 24/7 at hawaiisportsradio.com and on the new Hawaii Sports Radio app. You're listening to Wake Up in the Den on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, streaming on hawaiisportsradio.com and the Hawaii Sports Radio app.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht, 7 New York Knicks. And we are joined in studio by Deen Agustin, who is an NFL certified agent for the Standard Agency. You guys can look it up. But we are having a good time talking about just about everything. We wrapped up hour number 1 with some MMA talk and some basketball talk as well. Want to get back into football, though, as someone that obviously cares a lot and is of the Polynesian descent, but cares a lot about Hawaii and Hawaii football. I want to get kind of an outside perspective, and by outside, I just mean because you're not here living in Hawaii, but living on the continent. But what was it like to kind of see the University of Hawaii football team kind of return to the success. And then we talk about representation a lot, right? And our head coach, Timmy Chang, is one of now, I think, 4 head coaches in FBS football that is of native Hawaiian or Polynesian descent, excuse me. And then I think one of 2 who is of Asian descent, again, head coach of FBS football. But what it was like to see kind of him succeed and turn the page now into this after tough growing years and first few years of the helm, but kind of seeing Hawaii get back on the map now in football. And what is the talk of the town there on the continent, and where the circles that you're usually around during football season?
Yeah, it's awesome for sure. I mean, like, I grew up a Hawaii football fan. You know, Colt Brennan and all of that stuff is always super fun to watch, right? And I think, like, everyone always says that, like, college football is better when Hawaii is doing good.
Yes.
Like, it's just a different, like, aura around the program and around football in general when, you know, they're rocking like that. It's awesome to see for sure. Especially, like, in the way that they're doing it, like, pretty much just back to the run and shoot days, right? Where you're scoring a lot of points and it's fun to watch and everything. And I think for us, it's like, you know, if there's a guy who's, you know, a power 4 guy, but he hasn't gotten any playing time, it's like, bro, go to Hawaii. You're probably going to put up numbers there, right? I mean, look at Jackson Harris just transferred to LSU. Like, so it's been awesome to see Hawaii, you know, be back succeeding and everything like that. And I think Timmy's definitely the perfect person for the job, you know, local boy and played for the program and all of that stuff too. So I don't think you could have anybody better, you know, at the helm of things.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a testament to how we were talking about earlier with kind of the priorities with the standard and the type of agent that you want to be is be caring about your athletes and making sure that it's bigger than just, the money and everything like that. And that's something else that this football program has done. And I think why they can kind of still have the successes without necessarily having the big budget that a lot of these programs have, because when it comes to the Mountain West, I think our friend Matt Brown with the Extra Points Library had posted that out of the Mountain West schools, Hawaii in terms of football spending is kind of in the middle of the pack, right? But they finished at the top of the pack, close to at least anyways this past season, and how that like translates to everything. So is that something that you more so have noticed, like maybe now that this new era of college sports is trying to be navigated, that are people kind of going back to what really matters and caring about the fit and care? I mean, I understand, like we talk about it all the time. We've always been proponents of players getting compensated.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely, but sometimes it feels like it's almost becoming too distracting where it's not always, the grass isn't always greener, right? So it's like where Hawaii football kind of has done a good job in giving as much as they can on the financial side, but also making up for it, and how important maybe you see that has become into players' lives, their families' lives, where some of these other schools can offer more than just the biggest pay.
Yeah, I think it got representation, right? That's gonna kind of steer the direction in a way, whatever it may be too, right? It's important to have somebody who is gonna want what's best for you and not what's best for themselves. And so I think that's a big thing. I think also with Hawaii, like a lot of the guys are playing for something deeper than just football, right? It's like you get the chance to represent, you know, your homeland and all of that stuff. And so that definitely matters, and that's kind of a different I don't think there's any program in the country that can say that they can do that and like kind of use that as a recruiting tactic almost for some of the guys or whatever it may be, right, too. And so, I think that's a very cool part of it for sure.
Yeah, and what was your, let's go back to memory lane. You brought up Colt Brennan for a second. I was like, was that probably like your best memories of Hawaii football, or do you have like a particular game? Did you maybe go to a game at Aloha Stadium, or like?
I wish I did. I wish I did. No, I just watched a lot on TV. I'm trying to think if there was a particular game, maybe against Washington.
That game was brought up a lot. Yeah.
I've heard about that game before.
Yeah. I think that's probably the one that I would say. Obviously, played a lot of college football, like NCAA games growing up too, and so it's like it was fun to choose them and do the dynasty mode, and now that they brought him back, been doing the same thing for sure and whatnot. So it's fun, definitely.
I was a little bit curious. You bring up video games, or you bring up college, and I'm thinking about video games and stuff like that. How much free time do you have? What is the lack of free time that it is? Like
it like has its waves for sure. Like around the draft time, right? It's like free time is non-existent. Right? Like
right.
The draft weekend, especially, right? You're like nonstop phone calls and all of that stuff. There's different times though, like when the guys like right now has been some like a little bit easier, a little bit more free time and all of that. And so using the time, come out here, do some recruiting and all of that stuff, right? And like that's like now's the free time. And then also the guys have a break in training camp in mid-July. And so like there's kind of another break where things aren't as hectic, but in that time, like kind of using it to go and recruit because we know these guys are free, right? And so it's like, okay, now like hopefully you can kind of get some meetings on the books and all of that stuff as well too. And so I mean, it's always be recruiting, right? That's pretty much what it is all the time. Yeah, I mean, it depends. It's got its flows. I definitely like make it an effort to try to make sure, I'm taking time for myself and all of that stuff and whatnot though.
It's important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What does a typical day like? I mean, I know it varies like per school you go to, but kind of what does if you can share a little bit more detail and insight on what that recruiting process like is like and what a typical day looks like for you, for the student athletes that you represent, and then of course when it comes to the professional rank as well. So maybe in two parts, like from a college standpoint, how does a typical day in the recruiting process look for you, and then how does it transition?
About, like, when I'm recruiting a player.
No, sorry. When you're representing a player and they're maybe like going to different, all of that stuff. So sharing a little bit more about that. And again, I know it varies based on school, but a typical day for yourself when you're on this journey with some of these young people. Yeah.
And so, went on a couple unofficial visits with one of my guys or two ago. And they're all structured pretty much the same way. Like you're going to get picked up from the airport or whatever it may be, or, get to the campus somehow. And then from there, like, they're going to have a bunch of meetings set up for you, and you're going to go through that. You're going to meet, the general manager and the head coach. Usually they try to do that towards the end of things after you kind of met everybody. So you might meet like the director of recruiting. They'll definitely like have some players come by to introduce themselves and talk about how much, they've liked the experience there or whatever it may be.
How great the place is.
Yeah, how great the place is and all of that stuff too, right? Everything, essentially, they're all pretty cookie cutter. Like there hasn't been one where it's like, oh, this was like so different than the others, right? It's all like, for the most part, there's like a science to it of like the way that they do it and everything like that. Like they're going to make sure you meet the right people and hear the right things and all that stuff. And everyone's going to position themselves so that they kind of are shining things in the right light and making sure that you see what they want you to see and all of that. Like they're definitely never going to put somebody in front of you who's going to say anything different, right? And so, a lot of times got to tell the families and whatnot, like, hey, like, just so you know, it's not always going to be like this. Like when he's actually here, things might
supposed to feel great right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're pulling out all the stops for you. Like, you gotta actually maybe talk to the guys who you might know already and be like, hey, what kind of changed as soon as you got on campus? What does it look like now? Like how does your day-to-day look and everything like that, and be able to get the insight that way. It also helps, if we have other guys on the team currently and we can just kind of put them in touch with it, and like, because then we'll know firsthand, like, okay, this is how it changed as soon as he got on campus. This is what to expect. This is what they're already looking for you from and all of that stuff, right? So
I mean, we always talk about how Micah Alihado is like the #1 recruiter for Hawaii football because he's out there like tweeting at guys and like, come over here. So totally with players already there. So talk a little bit more too though about, and I think a lot of people are curious now going over to the professional side and how, leading up to draft day, you mentioned like you're talking to all 32 NFL teams. Like, how do you personally kind of manage your schedule like that and have these discussions? Obviously, you can't share in detail about all the things you could talk about, but as much as you can share, because I'm kind of curious on what your typical days or days or months are when you're leading up to the NFL for that, and making sure you had like how you manage talking to all these teams, how you keep your notes intact on like, okay, we like these different teams better than like, how does that whole thing work for you?
Yeah. And so from February 28th until the end of March, I took 9 flights. And so there was like a bunch of pro days and the combine and everything, right? And so there it's like, trying to run into intentionally, right, or whatever, and be at the combine, or whatever it be, And so you're there, you have the conversation with them, kind of, you throw your names at them and get their opinion on the guys and all of that, and then they're kind of, you can be a resource to them just as much as they'll be a resource to you. Like you're providing information to them on like, hey, like if they have any questions that come up about the guy, like, hey, like we heard he might have an injury here, like what's the accuracy on that? And you can kind of clear things up from them, like, oh yeah, no, that was something that was way in the past, like beginning of that and forever. So, and then that's kind of stuff that we hear from the scouts and whatnot on what's helpful for them is like, yeah, they usually like we'll have a bunch of questions, and it helps if the agent actually can answer them for us, because then it can help move a guy up their board. You know what I mean? If they already like the guy, then if they can get the question marks that they've had on him kind of answered, then it helps a lot there. And so then at pro days, it's similar stuff too, where you're going around talking to the scouts like, hey, I have my guy here. Like, what do you think about him? Are you here to see him specifically, or like? Kind of go from there. Like, what are your guys' positions of need? And so when we're there at the pro days, obviously we're talking to them about the guy we have participating in that pro day too. But then it's also like, we know that you guys are looking for corners. Like, I have a guy here. He might be a great fit for you guys. And like, oh yeah, he was already on our board. We're going to be out there to go see him then too. And so it's like, okay, cool. I'll see you there. And then now you can talk to them again then and kind of go from there. So it's been, March was definitely probably the most hectic of it all. It was like just kind of going all over the place. But it's like you are able to build a rapport with the guys you keep seeing. It's like, oh, weren't you just in, Florida for that? And it's like, yeah. And then now I'm all the way over here in, Fresno or whatever it is, right? And so, it's interesting process for sure, but it's cool. I mean, I knew what I was getting myself into when I started this and everything. So, it's a fun time though.
And we are joined in studio by Deen Agustin, who is an NFL, what's the right way to say it? NFLPA certified agent? There we go. I was like, I hope I'm using the right context here, as our friend Joey had asked. I guess he missed the beginning portion. Shout out Joey again, that's asking if you're an agent for players for Hawaii or the NFL. Well, it can be a little bit of both. But yes, both? The most important thing is that, yes, Deen is NFLPA certified. So he is a true and legit agent that can negotiate with NFL teams, as we learned in our number one.
Well, and that kind of leads into where I've been thinking about, and we talked about this a little already, of like, how have you seen the lines be blurred a little bit between negotiations at the college level versus the professional level? Have the lines been blurred, and kind of what is that like?
Yeah, I mean, for our guys, so we've negotiated a bunch of rookie contracts, and in a rookie contract there really isn't too much to be negotiated there, just because everything is kind of set in stone already on like, this is how much they're making, this is what the signing bonus is going to be.
Do you guys haggle over little language? Like, no, sorry, that's a Jets thing that I usually get frustrated by.
There's certain things, right, that matter more than others, like guarantees on injuries and whatever it may be. Like, that stuff definitely matters. But each team, it also depends like on where the guy got picked. If a guy got picked in the 7th round, for example, you're not really going to have a lot of leverage on what you can exactly be. Like, the first round negotiations might take a little longer for some teams because these guys, they know they have leverage, right? So that's the biggest thing in the okay, do you have leverage? And kind of going from there. But for college football stuff, it's just different because for the most part, like, some of our guys are on multi-year deals, but for the most part, everyone's on a 1-year deal. And so it's like constantly like, you're going to have that renegotiation period, when it's coming up. A lot of times, you're going to talk about it, a month or 2 months before it's even going out. And, obviously a lot of it's dependent on how the season goes and all of that stuff and what it may look like. I would say like all the colleges for the most part are starting to approach things just like an NFL front office. And you kind of have to, just because of the way that things are structured now. Like, now these guys at the college level, they'll have like a, cap analyst and all of that stuff to make sure they know where they're allocating their money properly and everything like that too. And I think, different universities are going to have it structured differently depending on what their budget is too and whatnot, right? And how many like recruiting guys can they have on staff? How many like, true front office guys are they going to have and everything too? So everyone's going to be differently in that regard, which is, I guess, also slightly different than the NFL for the most part. It's like kind of standardized. Sometimes more teams have more scouts than other guys or whatever it may be. But it depends. College, I guess there's a little bit more variance. Like, I've definitely negotiated with people who I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Like, what are we even talking about here? Like, I would say, honestly, just as much as there is bad agents out there, there's a lot of bad front office guys, to be honest. Like, it's interesting. I mean, I feel like a lot of times no one really talks about it, but there is definitely a lot of people out there who it's almost like, how did you get this job, to be honest?
Believe we've asked the question many a time.
So it's interesting for sure, but that's like in any profession, right? There's always going to be, bad apples or whatever it may be.
That kind of takes me into another thing, I guess, where I sit here and I'm thinking professional versus college. Well, we almost have that in the college ranks itself with P4 versus G6 or whatever it is now. how different is it? A very different world when you're negotiating, when you're talking to schools as part of those different quote unquote worlds, or is it still pretty similar for the most part? Understanding with resources
on who the guy is. Like, it's also like where did they come from? Like, for example, like my one of the best like people I've ever negotiated with, like he's a great dude, is Caleb Davis at the San Diego State GM. He's a great guy, and he came from, I think, Notre Dame before, and so he kind of knows like what it was to be at a P4, and they're very much trying to structure San Diego State in a similar way. And so like they do great business down there for sure, but there's there's schools at the P4 level who we've negotiated with, and it's like it's like pulling teeth essentially. It's like they take forever to get back to you on things, and it's like all very like time sensitive stuff, right? It's like, man,
two week portal period.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, and so, that's the frustrating aspect of it. But it's like, I think, good people attract other good people for sure. That's something that Caleb at San Diego State always says, and something that we kind of echo at the company as well too. Even when it comes to, recruiting guys and whatnot, we're always going to make sure that, they align with our values. And a lot of times the people we do business with, it's similar stuff as well too. Cause we're never going to put our guys in a position where, they're at a university who we don't trust. That's another big thing as well too. We want to make sure that these guys are in good hands and that they're in a stable environment for sure too. We're not going to put them someplace where it's like, the coach might leave in the middle of the year, or he might get fired, right? So it's like, never want to do that, because then it's like, okay, now you just got to that school, and now, in 9 months, what if you got to go again?
You're thrown back into the question marks.
Yeah. So that's a big thing for us, making sure the guys are, they're comfortable. And we trust in the spot that they're at.
That is so interesting with bringing up not everyone. I mean, there's like over 100 FBS schools now. Not 100% of them are necessarily wanting to perform at this level, but nonetheless, the best of the best are in the NFL already, right? In terms of front office roles, and now you have all these other schools like figuring it out. And I think you have some schools, the exact school that I saw, it escapes me on who it is. Of course, it's a P4 level, but now they're like separating their AD and the responsibilities and job titles, where the AD is almost like your operational guy of everything. And then they're actually creating a new position that is equivalent to an AD, but they're more of like the COO type of, it's on the business side, and I'm like,
I've seen somehow just like an AD of football now too, or like just solely that, which is essentially just like another general manager. But it's interesting to say the least.
College sports we're talking about.
College sports.
But somehow these guys aren't classified as employees.
Non-employees.
Somehow they're not an employee, even though they're getting paid directly by the university.
One day, guys, it'll hopefully get back to normal. I hope as about as normal that it can be at this point in time. But like just thinking about everything that has continued to change in college sports. But nonetheless, though, we do see where it actually, this era, if there's anything that this era has given us, it's parity. Because we saw Indiana, of all teams, Indiana go undefeated and win the national championship now, and they are all of a sudden a football school when the only thing they were known for was the Hoosiers basketball, right? And now they're a football school. So I guess in that sense, that's the one thing that this has given us, is that there is a little bit more parity, where you're not always saying, all right, it's Alabama again. Now I'm sure Alabama fans are very disappointed about that.
Alabama fans are like, we like that.
But the rest of us, but the rest of us are like, you know what? Like, this has actually been quite fun. You kind of see like Kurt Signetti and Fernando Mendoza, like a coach that has done this. But then you also see on the flip side, and we've talked about this last week, where you have some of the good G5 programs like James Madison. And you have good coaches and you build good programs, and then they get poached, but at the same time, they can at least still compete. So what has that been like for you, just watching the game change, the good aspects of it, of just being able to see some of this parity in college football? And I don't know how much it affects your job at all, but like just maybe as a fan of the game, like how it's been to watch college football have a little bit more parity in it.
Yeah, I mean, that's been cool for sure. I think we've seen it kind of across the board, almost not even just in college football, but even like in NBA, that's been something that I know Adam Silver's been talking about, is that, we don't want dynasties anymore and whatever it is, right? So it's like, it's interesting to kind of see it
some
across
of us
the
could
board.
see a dynasty coming through, but
So it's interesting. I wonder what it's going to look like in 10 years when, like, you'd imagine like a lot of the schools that have a lot of money and have a stable coaching situation, there's potential where, like, in Indiana could turn into another dynasty, right? Because they like, I think Mark Cuban's the one funding them, right? And so, like, that you got a stable kind of donor who's going to be providing for you, and Signetti doesn't seem like he wants to leave at all or anything either, right? So seems like they might be good for a while, and so it'll be interesting to kind of see kind of how it unfolds. We're just in a whole new era of things, right? And now they might just keep expanding this playoff. So we'll see how that changes things. You'd imagine that'll probably increase parity too, just because football's so different than other sports because it's one game. That's it. It's not a series. Like in a 7-game series, typically the best team is going to win that 7-game series. And so that's just, kind of what happens. But when it's just one game, like, upsets happen all the time.
That's why it's kind of funny to think about, the parody and like, all of a sudden the old school powerhouses that were known for walking the money into the back door, Miami, it's like, all of a sudden they're good now because they don't have to be discreet about anything that they are doing. Yeah. And now all of a sudden so you're right. It's like the tables have turned. There will still potentially be dynasties. It'll just be now the other schools that come up instead of your Alabamas, who could at least attract talent with all of their national championships, with all of the resources that they could give you. But now these other schools are like, hey, we're here.
Yeah, I mean, look at like Texas Tech, right? That's another example of they've kind of come out of nowhere too, right? And now they're a really successful program, and they're building something pretty big over there as well too. So it's interesting.
It's been funny to watch the evolution of college athletics. Sorry, I'm all stuck.
Paul's getting tangled up in there with the extra cords.
Oh man, it's just been really interesting to see everything kind of go back and forth. And when it comes to just in general, as you have watched, I don't know where I'm trying to go here, Ku. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm trying to come up with a question for him, and I lost the one that I had.
I'm curious to see or to know if there are any, I don't know how to put this without being completely like, with some of the talent that you represent, are there some of the same like top schools that they prefer to go to? Because I know like we see a lot of players, like for example, Hawaii players like have this fascination with like Oregon, for example. That's kind of like where, I mean, my nephew, even though he knew he wasn't going to play, like his parents asked him like, all right, you want to transfer somewhere, where do you want to go, where if you don't see the field, like where do you want to go? And it's like he wanted to go to Oregon. And he didn't really see too much of the field, but he loved every moment about his experience being there. So is there kind of like a common favorite that maybe some players are just like, hey, that's like my first choice, and then you do the visit and maybe they don't like it, whatever, but like is there kind of one school that there, or a few of the top schools that attract a lot of these players?
For me, for a lot of the Polynesian kids, they're usually not going to go further than like Texas. Like that's usually the furthest that they're going to go, right? And that's like any school in Texas for the most part. Like I think we've seen SMU have a pretty big recruiting kind of attention.
Really good call by you.
Out here is they've kind of been pretty active and whatnot. I think a lot of guys, they like the Utah area a lot for sure. I mean, there's so many Hawaii people out there as well, and then anywhere in California or Pacific Northwest too. Like, I think somewhere where you can go and you don't feel like you're a complete outsider or anything too is like helpful for that stuff. Like, anywhere in California, I know Cal's got a ton of, so they've kind of been popular with that and all of that. So, I think Cal, BYU, Utah, Oregon for sure. Those are probably like top 4 off my head, where I would imagine where like these guys, there's a little bit more of a soft spot for those spots, I would say.
I remembered my question that I was coming up with before, where we were talking before kind of about the impacts of NIL, and it had me thinking about after football. And do you see guys starting to consider life after football? Do you see guys considering going back to school and focusing on their degrees a little bit more? And obviously the goal is always you want to play professional football. You want to do it as long as you can, play the children's game as long as you can, and get paid for it, yada, all the cliches that you want to toss out there. But in this era, have you, as the years have gone on, have you kind of started to see a shift perhaps where some of these guys might be thinking or be more open to like, all right, let me stay in school longer, or, once I'm done with football here, maybe I don't need to try the undrafted route, the CFL, the UFL, XFL, whatever, and work my way up. Have you seen that at all? Is that something that you think that you could see coming down the pipeline at all?
It wouldn't surprise me because the new eligibility rules that are likely going to get passed with the 5 for 5, where so these guys are, a lot of them are probably going to be able to get a grad degree in that 5th year while still being able to, get, depending on where they're at, get paid, handsomely. Even if they're not a, true NFL prospect, you're getting paid over 6 figures as a college kid.
Life-changing
and
money.
now you're going to leave with no debt and a master's degree. And so it wouldn't surprise me if, there's more and more interest in that stuff. And also I think something that's really important is a lot of these guys are just thinking of themselves, like I've mentioned earlier, as like a business and like looking at life after football in that way too, of while I have this platform, essentially, being a college football athlete, let me think about how I can kind of leverage this to help me in my next step. And whether that's, on the field, like they're going to help and do some off the field endeavors while you're in the league, or, figure out a way, whether it's a podcast or a brand or whatever it may be that they create while they're there, but while they, got to strike while the iron is hot.
Only reason I bring it up is because I sit here and I think about Donovan Dent, who transferred from New Mexico, Mountain West Conference Basketball Player of the Year, to UCLA and ends up going undrafted and by all accounts could play professionally overseas. And the story came out that he is, by all accounts, retiring from playing basketball so that he can coach and he can train kids and kind of give back to the game. And part of what allowed him to do that was the fact that NIL exists and the fact that, he left school with no debt. And he left it with a good chunk of change in his back pocket where he feels comfortable to do that. And he did build a platform, kind of like you said, where he can be like, hey, former Division I, conference player of the year, trainer, whatever you want to be. So that was the only reason I brought it up. And football is a little bit different because, as you brought up before, it's NFL stands for not for long as it is. It's a 2 to 3 year career on average as it is. So you're trying your very best to make it and all of those things. So I was just curious. Education still matters, folks. Funny enough.
It still matters. All right, we are joined in studio by Deen Agustin, NFL agent for the Standard. I wanted to get back into kind of the representation conversation as we're wrapping up AAPI month here. But can you just share a little bit about your ethnic background so everybody knows?
Yeah, so I'm Native Hawaiian, Filipino, and Mexican. I'm Native Hawaiian, Filipino on my dad's side, and Mexican on my mom's side. Both my dad's parents grew up in Hawaii. They grew up in Hilo. My grandpa, his father, so my great grandpa actually, he passed away working in the sugarcane fields, and so he was able to work his way, and eventually they moved to Silicon Valley, and he kind of cut a really successful career for himself out there, and then. My grandpa on my mom's side, he worked his way all the way from being a farm worker to being a warehouse worker, to forklift driver, and then eventually became president and owner of the biggest, packaging company on the West Coast, went all the way down to Mexico, and that was Future Packaging. And then my dad he worked for my grandpa over there, and then since started his own business and has been in the packaging business for like 30 years as well. And so definitely come from a line of a lot of business entrepreneurs and everything, which I think has kind of framed my mindset and everything too. And so it's been a good time, and I've been able to learn a lot. Like I've worked for my dad when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and got to learn a lot there and see how he interacted with his customers and all of that stuff. And so, definitely taught me a lot, and, allowed me to see what it took to be successful in business and all of that for sure. I still, like, me and my dad talk probably 4 times a week, and I'm asking him questions or he's asking me questions. We're kind of just running through different things like, hey, how would you play out this scenario or whatever it may be? And so, having that as a resource definitely has been super helpful, even if it necessarily wasn't in the sports industry. Like, business is business, and it's been great to have, people like that in my life who I was able to learn from and be inspired by for sure. So it's been cool.
By the way, I believe we do have Dad that is watching, and I actually did comment earlier in hour number 1 in the YouTube chat that said, "Let's go, son." So shout out and hello to Dad that's tuning in.
I think both him and my mom are watching back home in Gilroy. I think my brother's probably watching too. So shout out to all you guys. Shout out Next Level Packaging. It's my dad's company.
Hey,
but yeah, no, it definitely was able to learn a lot. I think that also helps me is that I grew up blue collar and working in a factory, waking up at 6 a.m. and, in the freezing cold in the Bay Area. And then as soon as it kind of turns into lunchtime, now it's 90 degrees in the warehouse. And so, during COVID and whatnot, did a lot of that stuff, a lot of, nailing boxes together and stacking all the boxes in the, warehouse, a lot of heat. And it was a fun experience for sure. Taught me a lot. Bunch of my buddies all worked there too, and so we're able to kind of even though it was COVID, able to see each other because it's like, this is our bubble, and so it's been cool to kind of we all had that moment together during COVID. We're all still in college and doing Zoom school and all of that stuff, and then kind of go off all in our kind of different career paths. Another one of my best friends, he's a assistant district attorney in Santa Clara County. Another one of my buddies he's going to be a therapist, and another one of my buddies is doing a master's or PhD program at Brown University. And so a lot of my it's been cool to kind of see we all were working in a warehouse together, and now we're kind of just all doing our own thing, and it's been cool to see. And, we still always talk about those moments, and I'm grateful that had the opportunity to do all that stuff with my guys for sure.
I was jokingly going to ask what it's like to have the coolest job of all your friends, and then you just started rattling off some really cool jobs. I was like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't make that joke.
No, they all give me grief about it though, because they're like, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to go travel here and here and here, and they're like, oh, you got to go watch football.
Life.
Yeah, so tough. And then my lawyer buddy's like, I got to go sit in the courthouse for 8 hours and then commute back to San Francisco from San Jose for an hour and a half.
You both made decisions in school.
Yeah, I always told them, I was like, hey, come over to work in the sports side, man. You got a law degree. You can come do it with me. Yeah, it's funny.
Shout out Dad said he's still watching, and he said he's crying now. LOL. And then, by the way, shout out to the Filipinos and Hawaiian, because my mom's the exact mix. She's Filipino and native Hawaiian. And I'm like, all the Filipino guy, and my grandfather worked in the sugarcane fields as well too. But hence, the upbringing, hard work, right? Really working for everything you have. And I kind of want to give you the floor to elaborate a little bit more about that, because actually, I guess all three of us actually are pretty much kind of in our particular career field and really getting into this, right? Without the handouts that other people are given to from these bigger positions, but just kind of blend that with how your upbringing really made you that much more motivated, and how that makes you feel to be someone who is here where you are, being an NFL agent. And I know we touched on it a little bit in the first hour, but in case anyone's just joining in, but how much that is important to you to be not only representation, but knowing deep down you're like, I worked so hard for this, and now hence want to give back.
Yeah, no, it's a huge thing for me for sure. My dad, owning business, a lot of parents want their kids to work at their business, right? They want to do that. They're gonna push that for the majority of the time. My dad always told me, growing up, hey, the business is always going to be here for you if you want to take it over. Down the line, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, he's like, I want you to pursue your passion and pursue, what you want to do. And, he knew what I want to do. He's the one who kind of pushed me to make this 7-year plan on what I wanted to do and everything like that. And so come fruition, they've been nothing but supportive of me. And that's even with me, having to miss birthdays sometimes, whatever it is. But they know that, got to get it done. And so, it's been great for sure. I feel like starting to get choked up a bit.
It's okay. If there's anyone that cries all the time on air, it's me. So trust you. It's been a lot. So go ahead. We love the vibes and getting emotional on the show.
Yeah, no. So it's been great just having, them. They're my biggest support system, both my, my entire family for sure. Always super supportive of everything that I do, and they know that I'm, doing it for a purpose and everything as well. And so there's, that whole aspect of it. So it's been a great time for sure. I remember telling my grandpa and telling my dad at my brother's college graduation, they were kind of talking and reading off the different things of like, summa cum laude and magna cum laude and all this stuff. And I was like, I had no idea what that means at the time. I was like, what is it? I'm like, what is this like weird word that they're saying? Like, Grandpa was like, oh, there's like honors things. And like, this is if you get a master's degree and this is this and this was. And so I had a bunch of questions for him. And I told him, like, oh, well, I want to be the first one in the family to go get a master's degree. Like this is what my plan is. And I'm going to do that. And he unfortunately passed before he got to see me do that. But, when that moment happened, it was a big moment for me, big moment for my family for sure, that I was able to, fulfill that promise that I made to him. And everything for sure. So it's, it meant a lot for sure. Family means like everything to me for sure. So it's been cool. I mean, like every, Mexican, like it's family's such a big thing in all three of those cultures. So
I was like, wait a minute, you got like bam, like the
triple
all
multiplier right on top of
it. Because that's so true. All right, now I have to ask, because sadly, our Michael Esquero, who is the one that's full Filipino, does not like Filipino food.
How?
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I was a little scared. Like, are you like Filipino food? Like, or so. Okay, since you are all those three, clearly you grew up eating all of the awesome food. So maybe if you could pick one from each ethnicity, like what is your favorite dish from each?
From Hawaiian food, definitely lau lau is probably my favorite. I think from Mexican food, tacos 100%, like street tacos.
Street tacos.
Yeah, El Pastor specifically, definitely like right off of the trompo. That's definitely the best, the grilled pineapple and all that. And then for Filipino food, probably chicken adobo or lumpia. Like you can't go wrong with either one of those. And lumpia, I feel like you'd eat 100 of those things and still want to eat more of them. So definitely that's probably the three for me.
Thank goodness. I even asked Michael about adobo, and he's like, "No, I don't eat that either."
That's
I'm like, "What?
Crazy. That's crazy.
Shame."
You don't eat lumpia? How do you?
Well, I don't think I've asked about lumpia, but I know he didn't eat like pork guisantes, which is my favorite.
Crazy. Yeah, I love that. Too. Shout out my dad. Made that all the time growing up. Yeah.
Yeah, my auntie makes like to me like the best like pork guisantes ever. And when Michael was like, "No, I don't eat that one."
Yeah.
No. How do you do that? But I think that's interesting. That's kind of like how you guys share similar too about your parents having their own business and then you guys doing things that are completely opposite. But getting a chance to like work in the business. And I can imagine the thing is similar for you, Paul, where it's like your dad like is going to sell the business, but like but at the same time like
That's only because I'm not taking over the business.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty cool, like to hear kind of that, and then like that similarity with you guys, and that it's like, oh no, but I'm like my passion is like this. Like Paul went to school for the sports broadcasting stuff, and now he's all the way on the opposite side of the country to pursue this, and seems like he had all the support from his parents and still do as well. His dad is actually still out here, right? So he's still out here. Yeah,
today's their last day.
Oh, had baby Melly and got to meet her and everything like that. But yeah, maybe if you guys can share a little bit more about kind of that background and experience about having that support from your parents to kind of pursue these things that no one else in your family ever did, and you're like, this is what I want to do, and I'm now making it work.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all I've wanted to do. It's probably since I was around 16 years old as well. Probably a little before then. But 16 is when I really started to take it seriously. And yeah, if you don't have your parents' support, if you don't have familial support, it's just way harder. It's not impossible, but man, I can't imagine like trying to do this, because and I can imagine you probably relate in a way where it's like, it is not always a rewarding industry. It is not always one where you walk in every day and you're like, I am doing the best job ever. And there's a lot of imposter syndrome that tells you like, man, there are a lot of people who are doing this who probably are better than me. And it's like, I'm just trying my best to be the best that I can be. And on those days especially, it's important to have your family to push you through. And, you know, the blue collar of it all, the being able to work in the family business and whatnot, and then to have almost the blessing from your parents of like, hey, I'm not going to be mad at you if you do what you want to do. I know for me that was like a whole other thing where, and I'll kind of pitch it over to you and also add this question on top where it's like, I think a lot about what would 16-year-old me have to say to me now, and it's like you bring up like you put out your 7-year plan.
Yeah.
Well, it's been past those 7 years.
Hell yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what's that conversation like?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, no, growing up, having the support of them through everything that I did was definitely huge, and shaped how I approach things. Like I definitely had friends where they told their parents they wanted to pursue a certain career path, and their parents didn't support them, and so, like them coming to my house, and my parents were being able to be the support system for them too. And that happened a lot. Like my dad, I think, is a father figure to a lot of my friends for sure. We were definitely like still are like when everyone's back in town, the hangout house of like where everyone is coming over, whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, whatever it is, everyone's going to come over and we're going to have a good time. And it's just like family, right? And so and that's a big thing for me too that I think I was taught as a young age is that blood doesn't necessarily make you family. It's the bonds that you build with people and all of that stuff. I've got a ton of uncles who aren't necessarily an uncle to me, but I treat them like they are and all of that stuff, right? And so that's definitely like a huge value for me. And I would think for your other question, I was talking about this with my girlfriend the other day actually, and she was just kind of telling me like, I don't even think your 16-year-old self would like believe what you're doing right now. And I was like, no, you're probably right. Like it's crazy. Like, I mean, I'm blessed enough to be in the position that I am. I've had, 2 draft picks in 3 years, and we've got 8 guys in the NFL now. And, last year to have a guy who wasn't drafted and then end up starting 5 games for the Chiefs. And so, definitely a wild ride and been good stuff. And when you keep building momentum, just keep stacking days. And I think that's another big thing that, my dad and my family told me is that, each day you can get like a little bit better, and it doesn't all have to come at one time. And, the best part of it is the journey. And like, you're going to look back on it and be like, man, remember when I was doing all that stuff and we just started, and then how sweet it was when we finally got like this guy to sign with us or whatever it is. And it just kind of helped jumpstart the company in that way for sure. And so it's been a, incredibly fulfilling for sure to have all that experience, and then even more so like gratifying to have the support of my family and everything behind me, and telling me to keep pushing, and like, hey, like I'm sure like there's definitely hard days out there, being able to call them up and know still support me in whatever I'm doing, and just tell me like, hey, it's gonna pass. Like the hard times they're gonna pass. It is what it is at this moment, but everything happens for a reason, and you're gonna figure out a way out of it. So it's been awesome for sure to have all of that.
You brought up something right there that I had not thought about at all with 2 guys being drafted in 3 years. We always talk about the rush, like you see the emotion of that. What's the rush like for you, especially being your first couple of guys?
Actually, if you please share who they are too with our
also
listener.
feel free
Yeah. Please share. I don't know if you want to give your full client list, but mainly the 2 ones that got drafted, and then Paul's question.
In 2024, Sione Vaki, and then 2025 didn't get drafted, made a 53-man roster. That's Esapole. And then this year, Dallin Bentley was drafted. And so those are the 3 guys of the first 3 years. And then we also have my guys are Alzelion Hamilton, plays for the Rams, and Ke'ena DeCambra, St. Louis alum, played at UH and then Arizona, and he's over with the Cardinals right now too. So, it's been a great time for sure. The rush was crazy though. I would say for 2024, that was like the craziest wave of emotions I've ever had in my entire life. Like it was like immediately, as soon as we, hear him on the phone with the Lions, it's like immediately like overwhelmed with emotion, like burst into tears. Like this is just crazy. Essentially, like it felt like I was like almost like owed inner 16-year-old of like, we delivered on the promise that we made. Like this is it. Like you finally like check that box, and then as soon as kind of settled down from that, now it's like, okay, now from 23 to 30, what is that going to look like? What are your plans here? What does that 7-year plan look like? And so, that's been another good thing for us, and, hit a couple benchmarks for sure with another draft pick this year. And, hopefully next year we got a couple more and just keep building on that. So it's been a good time.
I remembered why I wanted Esapole to make the Jets roster now.
Yeah, because they claimed him.
I remember a lot more now why I was excited about that claim.
I'm glad you asked that question, Paul, and just because I think that's a good reminder, again, to your younger self, but also that was probably, because I think in everyone's career, you always have kind of like your moment where you're like, I made it. Like, so to have, I can imagine that was probably the big benchmark of like, wow, I made it. Because it's one thing to get in and get your certification, all of that stuff, but to see, like your client, your first guy get drafted and really have to go through that process. I mean, just if you don't mind, like elaborating a little bit more about the emotions behind that of what, exactly was just like, man, I'm here, I made it, I got a guy, and like all of that stuff, right? Like, and I know you're all about the player, but I'm gonna push you to be a little selfish for just a second, and just kind of tell us a little bit more about what that feeling was like to know, like, wow, I did it.
Yeah, it was honestly really just like euphoric more than anything. It's just like it didn't even feel real for a second. Like you're just kind of in the moment of like, did that really just happen? Like it was crazy because like during that whole draft process, me and the team were talking and we're like, hey, where do you guys think he's going to go? And the whole time for me was like, fourth round of the Lions or the Niners. I was like, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be fourth round of the Lions or Niners. There's two teams he took visits on and everything. And day 3, I remember talking with my boss, CEO of the company, and I just told him, like, I think it's going to be the Lions. He's going to go in the fourth round of the Lions. And then the Lions ended up trading up for him. And then, afterwards, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes do a press conference, and they're talking about how they met up that morning. And they were like, Brad Holmes told Dan Campbell, like, man, we have to get Sione by any means. We have to get Sione on this team. And then Dan Campbell told him, like, dude, I'm literally was about to tell you the same exact thing. And so kind of just crazy how it all worked out in that way. And then I think one other thing that was really special, I forgot to mention him, Lucky Tossi. He came through the International Pathway program. So that was super special because he had never played football before. He was a rugby player. And his journey is just amazing. Like he was weighing, I think, back in Australia at one point, like 450 pounds, and he lost 100 pounds to get all the way down to 350. And then he was working in a warehouse at the time, ended up doing an International Pathway tryout for the NFL to be a part of the program, was accepted into that, and then went through the whole 10-week process of training for the draft and everything. And then we eventually got him a contract with the Raiders, and that's like crazy, and couldn't be a more poetic place, with them being Ninth Island and everything like that too, and such a big Polynesian population there. He's a Samoan kid, grew up in Australia, and his story is amazing. And now he was practicing as a D tackle the whole program, and then they flipped him to offensive line when he got there, which was crazy. And it was pretty wild because he was out there, pancaking people as somebody who had never played the game of football before. And then now they got him back on defensive line, which is where he wanted to be the whole time anyways. So, it's going to be a great time for him. But, his story is just amazing. And, I mean, for a kid who never played football or anything in his life, and now he's playing for the Raiders with a good shot to make the roster. So
I'm like, dang, we're all of a sudden a Raiders fan because Kante Matsuzawa is also at the Raiders. So it's like, wow, okay, they're not in the same division as the Bears or the Jets, so it's okay. We can totally root for the Raiders. It'll be fine. It's not the Patriots.
It's not the Patriots. In fact, they beat the Patriots last year. It was great.
Wrapping it up here as we are joined by Deen Agustin, NFL certified agent, and works for The Standard. You guys can go to standardagency.com if you want more information, and for other people that can submit like an inquiry form and all of that stuff in case they don't want to go this route, or if they want to reach out to you directly on Instagram as you had mentioned. But wrapping it up here, maybe what does your plans look like here in Hawaii? We do know you're here for work, and then what it looks like leading up to the NFL season.
Yeah, so, met up with some family and whatnot. I think I'm going to try to see them again tomorrow, potentially. So we'll see what happens with that. And then I'm going to go see my guy, Isaiah Bertola, Campbell kid and whatnot.
Guy's pretty good at football that year.
4-star kid, top kid in the state.
It's all right.
He'll be, flying out with him and the family on Thursday to go to the USC official visit. And now he's got also Cal, Texas, and BYU lined up all after that as well too. So it's going to be a busy June, but be a good time. And he comes from such a great family and all of that. And they're awesome. And it's always great to help out another Hawaii boy. So. Sky's the limit for that kid for sure too. He's amazing.
Sorry, I was just thinking of like Cal, you mentioning the names, and we know we talked about this before, and I'm like, man, it is awesome that so many schools have realized like, hey, Polynesians have really good players and really good people, but it's like some of these schools that like at one point you never recruiting Polynesians or anything like that, or recruiting Hawaii, period. And it's like, Cal. Yeah. Which now they have the number one guys to recruit there, Jaren Keame, Sangapolu. I don't think it hurts like having him over there to be again our quarterback here is a number one recruiter, and I'm sure Cal and Jaren is very much, and the camel tie-in and all of that stuff that goes with it. Like, sheesh. And then what does it kind of look like for you leading into this upcoming NFL season? And is there any particular game you're looking forward to?
Looking at just, preseason in general, I want to go see all of my guys. I think a couple of their teams play each other in preseason, so I'll be able to kind of, kill two birds with one stone and go see multiple of them all at the same time. Leading up to that, I'm going to be, I think, going to Utah again for some more recruiting out there and all of that leading up to there. And just keep putting together the board, keep making, connections with people and trying to see, like, okay, who do we want to kind of finalize as our, like, let's say top 10 guys we want to go after this year, and then kind of see what it kind of, goes down to or whatever it may be from there. And so that's a big thing, putting together the board for us. It's very similar to kind of, I guess, how a college does it for their guys as well, right? So, doing a lot of that. And then, that's pretty much for the most part what it'll be for the next couple months. Start traveling a lot more in August to all the games and all of that stuff. So it'll be a good time.
I know football season can't come here soon enough.
Yeah.
Just a random question for you here, because I sit here and it's like, obviously you're in contact with literally everybody in these people's and these players' lives. How often are you kind of in contact with the front offices of these teams? Like, how often are they back and forth with you just to try and keep that relationship?
College or
let's talk NFL, and then I'm more than happy to hear about college as well.
For NFL, if we have a guy who, we have a couple guys this year who are already with us for NIL stuff going into their draft eligible year. So we're already reaching out to them and like, hey, we have this guy already locked in with us for pretty much locked in. Can't say that officially. Right. They're with us right now. So we want to get their opinion. Right. And so we, reaching out to the scouts there and like, hey, we have this guy. Have you done any work on him so far? If you haven't, you should. And so I think that's, also the advantage of a kid, if there's a kid out there who's a junior or senior and they don't have representation yet, that is the advantage of having representation now, and especially NFL certified representation is that, it can start vouching for the guys earlier and making those calls, especially, when it comes to the All-Star games as well, making sure that, we're hitting those guys up, making sure that the East-West Shrine and the Senior Bowl and American Bowl and all of them know that, hey, we have these guys, like, put them on your list, make sure you're watching them. We're taking that extra step and making sure that, we're vouching for the guys and putting them in the best position possible, moving forward before they've even, taken a step on the field yet in their most important year.
It's really just what I was curious about in general, where it's just kind of, you hear so much about representation and how they are the front facing, but I wasn't sure how much of a front face, because it does change agency to agency, I have to imagine, of how much you control. So I was just curious.
And we have a couple of minutes left, so I kind of want to give you the floor. Two-part question. What is your last thing you want to share with? We'll do the first question first. Any of the young athletes out there as they go on through their college and NFL, potentially NFL football careers, maybe what is your message for them? And then the second part, on the other side, if there are any people that are interested in pursuing this type of career path that you have chosen as well, and want to, maybe if there's any young ladies out there, yay, that want to kind of get into maybe becoming an NFL agent, or maybe just a sports agent, a legit one in general. What is your advice? So let's start with just the young athletes out there.
Yeah, I think my biggest advice to them is, if they're coming from high school to college, from that level, you want to go somewhere where, one, you're wanted and you know that the recruiting staff really wants you there, and that they have plans for you for the future, and that they're illustrating to you, this is what it's going to look like for you when you're here. Like, this is the weight we want you to play at. This is what position you're going to be at. This is what we're doing for you already. And so that's a big thing. And you got to go where you're going to play. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, if you're a receiver, are you going to go to another school that just took 3 5-star receivers in the same class as you? Like, that's probably not ideal. Like, think about how much money is tied up in those guys, where you might be a really good player. You might even look better than them in practice. But at the end of the day, they're paying that kid $800,000, $1 million. Are they going to give you, who's making nothing, or $100,000, the same opportunity? Probably not. Unfortunately, it is a business at the end of the day, and so that's a big thing that we preach to our guys too, is like, hey, if playing time and making it to the NFL is important, you got to be able to get on the field in your first 2 years, essentially. It happens where, guys can be late bloomers and all that stuff for sure, obviously, but, you got to be able to play early on and be able to get on the field early on. And so, go somewhere where you're going to be able to play, early. And if that means, on that first contract, you're going to take a smaller amount in the first deal, but you're going to be a starter and play a lot, then that second deal is going to be significantly higher than what you would have got at a school who's going to pay you more the first year. Then you sat on the bench the whole year. So you're either making that same amount the next year or you're making less than that. And so that's a big thing we preach to our guys is like, go where you're wanted, go where you're going to play. That's really the biggest thing. And then for all the young people out there looking for career advice, I would say, do a lot of research into it and understand like the sacrifices and everything that it takes for sure. But also like, I would say if you really feel like truly passionate about Lee, like I do, like don't let anybody try to deter you from doing that, because it is possible to be successful, in this industry as someone who had no connections or anything like that. It is possible. And I would say like I would love to, lend a helping hand and at least bare minimum do informational interviews with these people and, give them what not to do. And, I think the biggest thing, whether it's for athletes or just, young professionals, whatever it is being able to keep the main thing. Like if you really want to do that, you have to leave that as your end goal, and like everything that you do to at least show something, like show some progress towards that end goal. It can't just be like you're just doing this just to do it. Like things move quickly for sure. Especially, when you're navigating time, through college or whatever it may be, like it's going to go quick. So, got to make sure you have the proper, steps in place. And that way you don't have any regrets looking back on like, oh, maybe I should have reached out to that person, or maybe I should have done this to kind of further my career or whatever it may be. And so that's what I would say.
Perfectly well said. And to wrap up our show, by the way, before we get out of here, I want to shout out to your mom too, who just chimed in on the saying, that's my baby boy, of course, in true mom fashion, doing awesome things. Again, my son, great entertainment is what she said. So mahalo again. Thank you, Dean, for joining us for the full 2 hours.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if you were going to be able to hang out this long, but it's nice. We got to learn a little bit more about you and everything. So again, you can follow Dean. We'll share his information on our YouTube caption as well, so you guys can get it directly there, or go to standardagency.com. But that's our show for Deen Agustin,
for having me.
Paul Brecht. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Mahalo for listening. It's been Wake Up in the Den. Bye.
You're listening to the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, streaming 24/7 at hawaiisportsradio.com and on the new Hawaii Sports Radio app.